Greetings. My name is Professor Wormwood.
Hello everyone, it is, Crime Police FES here, and, welcome to the monthly podcast. So, this is going to be a monthly podcast where I feature special guests, anyone that I like on YouTube that is willing to speak to me, and willing to have discussions about, what is going on in the gaming world, the YouTube world, the tech world, the movie industry, all of that. Now, we have a list laid out. We can give a general... Do you want to give a general summary what it's about, Wormwood?
Certainly. We're going to be talking about a few things that have been occurring, in 2017. Giving an analysis of some of the things we thought were most important that happened this past year. We're going to be taking a look at the YouTube Adpocalypse, both version 1.0 and 2.0, as well as the ongoing and very recent Logan Paul issue. We're going to be talking about a little bit more Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, some of the implications that this has actually brought to the series as a whole. Gaming controversies, bad games in general that are released in 2017. We're going to take a little bit look at, film, particularly looking at a bit of the horror genre and how it's actually been impacted a little bit by a specific film in 2017. And then Karma here is going to be taking a look in particular at Persona 5 and giving a little bit of background as to his introduction to the series.
Alright, wow, this is going much better than I thought it would, which is definitely great. So, do you wanna kick off the YouTube Adpocalypse first part, or do I? It's up to you.
Kick it off.
Alright.
I can kick it. Okay, so here we go. The YouTube Adpocalypse. So YouTube, for the last few years, has kind of become a little infamous in the way it treats its creators. Like, if you're at the top of the heap, and you're golden, you're not gonna have much problem. But it's like the rest of us, especially some of us that are just getting started on their YouTube careers, that we're kind of getting shafted. And the real problem that's coming is a result of certain individuals who have said or done certain things that are kind of beyond inexcusable. We really want to look at it firsthand. We're going to go back to the first Adpocalypse, started by, of course, our sort of, I don't know if I want to call him a friend, but our individual compatriot, PewDiePie.
Well, I mean, here's my opinion on PewDiePie. I used to watch him back when I was in 7th grade because I didn't know what good YouTube videos were back then. Let me move my mic closer to my mouth. But I used to watch him, and he's not horrible. It's just I feel like he's a less edgy Filthy Frank at this point. He just tries way too hard to be funny. He talks like this all the time, and very obnoxiously. I mean, he's not terrible, but he's just not my style. And I honestly have no beef with this guy. He's just a YouTuber. It's not like he's like people like Logan Paul or Jake Paul, which we'll be getting to. You know what I mean? I hope.
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry.
No, you're very much correct. And I'm personally, I don't really hate the guy either. I mean... Look at it, it is very hard to hate somebody personally. You can hate what they do, you can hate what they stand for, but it's very difficult to truly say that you hate them personally. And so I don't hate PewDiePie. However, I do think that he is not always thinking straight when he does certain things. The first Adpocalypse is very much the case, where he pulled a few pranks, said a few things that weren't exactly kosher, to say the least.
But here's the thing. In my opinion, the second Adpocalypse, which I'll be spoiling, was caused completely by him being a dumbass. The first part, was just a hit piece written on him by the Washington Post. I mean, they could be, for all I know, the Washington Post, if they got mad at me, I could say, let's say because I said, Hail Hitler, they could take that out of this video and just, say, oh, I'm doing, I was referring to Hail Hitler, see Kyle, that's who I support, I'm an alt-right. No, they were basically trying to pin PewDiePie and, write a hit piece so that it seemed like he was a Nazi sympathizer, which is not true. He's an idiot, but he's not a Nazi sympathizer.
Exactly, and I think the big issue that came here, and this is something that I think Felix, he learned this the hard way. what he did as one, a joke, and two, to kind of prove a point. The problem is that come across, in my own personal work, is that if you see something is funny, it may not be funny to others. The reason why is because you have a different perspective on it than other people. There's context, there's understanding that you have that they may not. And I think that's exactly what happened here, is that all this stuff was taken out of context, and he really didn't do a good job of, protecting himself from being attacked in that fashion. He lacked the tact needed to actually do the things that he actually did.
Yeah.
So he made a mistake. The hit piece was not deserved. That was taken totally out of context, totally misrepresented, and it just completely it demonstrated something that is an unfortunate stereotype, is that, YouTubers as a whole, people may think they're popular, but they're not always respected.
Yeah.
And as much as Felix is an individual that I don't really care for his content, I respect how large his following is. You need some serious charisma to be able to get to that point. Charisma, to be perfectly honest, but I understand that it's there. And I respect him for that.
Yep.
This whole first Adpocalypse was a clear demonstration of people not understanding that charisma.
I totally agree with that. But I also think, it led to, which was the first real major hit on the YouTube landscape in 2017, the Adpocalypse 1 version 1.0. So how do I describe Adpocalypse? YouTubers were ads like McDonald's and Walgreens were pulling their ads off of YouTube because they didn't want to be associated with such horrible content. Which there is some bad content, like Elsa vs. Spider-Man or GTA 5 mods for kids starring Five Nights at Freddy's shit. That's not children's content. That shouldn't have ads on it.
So, that's a whole nother can of worms,
Yeah, that shouldn't have ads on it, but that's less than 1% of it. At least from what I've seen, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, and I think, and this is something that really hasn't been touched upon, but I have a personal thought about this, is that I think very much so that, like these large corporations, I think they know that YouTube exists. The whole Adpocalypse thing clearly shows that they don't understand how it actually works.
Exactly.
No
one understands.
They saw Felix at.
Sorry for
but that's fine. But the culture as a whole, Felix does not represent all of us. Yes, it is true. He is the top YouTuber of all time. Yes, that is true. That doesn't mean he represents YouTube itself.
Let's pull up 3 random YouTubers. Let's think I Hate Everything, Jake Paul, Markiplier. None of them, they're all over the million subscriber range. 2 of them are over 10 million subscribers, but none of them are similar whatsoever. They all have a loyal following, but none of them are similar. Same with PewDiePie, same with any YouTuber. Like, even me and Wormwood are different, because I'm more of the person that likes to get involved in the controversies. I like to stay back and do that. I like the Persona series, while Wormwood is more of a Pokemon fan, a Metroid fan, that kind of stuff.
Right. And so I really do believe that whole first Adpocalypse thing, that did not need to happen. That was completely unprecedented and completely inexcusable. This shouldn't have happened. Now, moving from there to the second Adpocalypse, on the other hand, this is where I think Felix actually was in the wrong on this one.
Wait, we should talk about something before that. A certain website shutting down. Vine.
You can take the... Yeah, you can take the reins on that one.
Now, as a person who used to use Vine, until I realized it was utter disgusting, stupid, trite, because Vine got shut down because they couldn't pay their server bills, is what. I don't know the exact story. Probably should have looked into that before we started this, but oh well. I'm pretty sure most of our viewers are gonna know what we're talking about anyways. So Vine got shut down, and when it did, a lot of the YouTubers who made their followings over there just tweeted, "Hey, subscribe to my YouTube channel." This included some YouTubers which They like to make diss tracks. That's the only thing I can say about them. Um, they ended up becoming the new stars of YouTube. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, indeed.
like they're the new stars of YouTube. It's no longer the early 2005s with Fred. It's no longer the 2010s with PewDiePie and like who else was up top in 2010? Jeez, I don't know, but you get my point. Hopefully you're understanding. You understanding Woodworm?
I know, I got you. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So the second Adpocalypse though happened a little bit after Vine got shut down, and you can take over this one.
Certainly. So, hilarious, and at the same time not surprising that, once again, the second apocalypse was also caused by our friend Felix.
But he
Only
did,
this time...
yeah, it was completely... the Adpocalypse, even though it doesn't represent YouTube once again, it's justified because Felix said a naughty word. What did he say? The N-word. I'm not even going to repeat that word because it's just, you just don't say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean... You know, I'm probably the whitest guy around here. I mean, my heritage is Irish, Scottish, and German, so I definitely cannot say that word.
German? 9.
But,
oh, yeah,
hey.
German, you'd probably fit with, Felix. He's a Nazi sympathizer.
Right, sure. But yeah, so, and the thing is that on the one hand, he did not say it in an antagonistic sense. I think that needs to be made clear.
Yes,
he said it slipped out. I've seen the footage. It slipped out. It was not intentional in any way. It just kind of slipped out. Time. There's another mistake, and again, this was not something done out of malice. This was a mistake, but it was a dumb mistake on his part.
Yes. To which it led to Adpocalypse 2.0, to which more ads left to YouTube channels, and even this time, it started affecting other YouTube channels who didn't make controversial content.
Yep. And this is...
The demonetization, even though we didn't write this in the notes, we might as well bring this up. Video demonetization is a mess. Like, I have a friend who uploaded music videos, and they got demonetized and not suitable, not advertiser friendly, and he can't repeal it because he doesn't have 10,000 views. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, see, and this is something that I think is really starting to develop around here, and in the Adpocalypse is there bad enough, but I think this is starting to see the beginning of something even worse, and that is YouTube paranoia. It's the fact that every time now, people are getting kind of scared, because the first Adpocalypse, okay, that was terrible, but there's no way it's going to happen again, but then it did happen again.
Not even 6 months later.
Exactly, and so now, a lot of YouTubers, and I know me especially in particular, I mean, I'm very new here to the YouTube scene, I've just started not too long ago, but, you know, it does concern me, you know, I don't think my content's going to be affected, but that doesn't mean that I'm not part of this issue, because I understand people are paranoid, because they don't know what's going to be advertiser friendly and what isn't.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a way to really discern. YouTube is kind of asleep at the wheel a little bit, just a little bit, because it doesn't seem like they quite know either.
And
Or the target who deserve it, but others that don't deserve it get targeted at the same time, so it's a big problem, because that's gonna stop creativity right in its tracks.
Yep.
Kind of thing that stops people from coming in to try new things. And that is the kind of cycle that, if it continues to spiral out of control, could lead, and this is, maybe I'm going over the boat for this, but this is the kind of thing that could lead to the end of YouTube.
Actually, I agree with. I was about to say, well, I don't, but no, I do agree with it.
Again, I'm not saying like this alone is enough that's gonna take YouTube down in time, but it definitely does set the stage where it's much easier for like another Adpocalypse or something even worse to completely topple the platform.
Yes, and I feel like I should talk about the next topic, though.
Right ahead, go right ahead.
Because I am in 9th grade, I had spent time with people who watched the trends explode. Now, YouTube created a lot of trends. A lot of it was popular YouTubers, a lot of it was other stuff. But we're gonna start off with my least favorite to the one the one that makes me want to put down the gun rather than putting it in my head, just slap myself instead. Yeah, so we had It's Everyday Bro, which is sitting at 3 million dislikes or something like that, and 1 million likes, where it was a guy singing about how England is a city, how, he was basically bragging how he had money and how he was going to steal PewDiePie subscribers. Absolutely obnoxious, yet people liked it for some odd reason. Then we had the fidget spinner out craze. I absolutely loved the fidget spinners. You know, I absolutely love when, like, kids would bring them into school and then they would just start spinning them around for no reason and, like, showing off their fidget spinners in, like, the beginning of class. And then you're like, dude, shut up. And then you get threatened because, like, you wanted to just get schoolwork done. It's like, I don't understand these trends. Probably because I've never been one to follow trends. But, like, then you had the, what was it? Cash Me Outside, how about that? Which hurts my head. Probably because I'm a grammar Nazi. But that hurts my head, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
And then we had, I'd say the last real one was towards the end of summer, and this was when I was in summer school, so I perfectly remember because a kid gave me $5 to use my Bluetooth speaker for an hour. He blasted this song called Gucci Gang. Yeah. And this kid would scream "Sketty" a lot. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The trends, I understand why trends are popular, because, like, some things explode, but, like, compared to 2016, which had some of the greatest memes ever, which is, like, basically Keemstar is a nutshell and Leafy is a nutshell. Leafy in a nutshell. They were memes. You had the anti-humor memes where it would be like the B movie, but every time it says B, the Godfather trilogy plays, but every time a saxophone is played, the Alien trilogy plays, but every time the Alien trilogy plays, you get it what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And that was funny to me. This, not so much, really. This was just stupid, repetitive shit that just repeatedly happened, kept on happening, and it just exploded in trends. And now, yeah, let's go on to the next topic. I already made a video on this topic, so I'm going to let Wormwood completely take over, so, you have it.
Okay, yeah. Last thing talking about controversies in YouTube, is the most recent one, and this is one that,
even though it happened January 1st, we count it this year, not last year.
It might as well, because, yeah,
it happened 10 hours after.
It's very active right now, and it's still ongoing, and I think it should be said, you know, because...
Yeah.
It's our... I can't say friend, it's our... Paul.
It's the Pauls.
In particular. I'm not gonna... the hoopla to explain everything, because by now...
You're lagging out a bit.
I've heard about it. Happens, unfortunately. Hold on.
Let's fix this for a second.
Absolutely.
It's a podcast. I can just edit out some of the stuff.
Yeah,
Even if I don't, it's a podcast. Who cares?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're fine.
I live in the middle of freaking nowhere, so this happens sometimes.
I live in dumb fuck New York.
At least you live with people. Anyways, I'm surrounded by fields and a swamp. Anyways,
get out.
So, yeah, no, please keep your Shrek joke till the end. So, I'm not gonna go through all the hoopla to explain what's going on, because by now you all understand. I just want to give my personal take on this, and I very much share a similar opinion with Mr. Philip DeFranco, who also did a very nice piece on this. Listen, Mr. Logan Paul, what he did, I think we can all agree, is pretty much inexcusable and, to be frank, kind of unforgivable.
Yep.
I mean, not even talking about the fact of what he did from our perspective, but especially from the perspective of the culture of the country he did this in. There's one thing that defines the culture of Japan. It is
Respect.
privacy.
It's respect too.
That too. Yes, but especially privacy. This is a society that believes that, privacy is something that is just a natural part of life. In order to really get to know people intimately, you have to prove yourself that you are worthy of that kind of information. And it's not easy. It is not easy at all. It's not easy for someone who was born in Japan. It is infinitely more difficult for somebody who was not. And this is and people know this is kind of a thing for Japan. They do have a thing about foreigners, but it's an island culture, so
Yeah,
given the way that they've developed, it's totally understandable, and I completely respect their culture. I have no problem with them because I totally understand where they come from. I totally understand it. But the thing is that with that sense of privacy, you have to understand that there are certain things you can or cannot do. Certain things that you have to have a certain level of connection with individuals in order to really... In fact, it's so severe, like, if you go to Japan, and this is for tourists, if you want to go to Japan, keep this in mind. Do not take pictures willy-nilly of people. Do not do that. Because that is disrespectful. Because you are invading their personal privacy. So, if you want to take a picture of someplace and there are people around, ask their permission first.
And
ask them if
don't
it's
take
okay.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry I'm cutting to the chase already, but especially don't fucking record a dead body. That shouldn't be said, but apparently it has to be.
Unfortunately, yes.
It
cut to the chase
have
more
to
often.
be said. It really shouldn't.
Right.
Which is kind of pitiful that it has to be said.
Well, I mean, yeah, but but even beyond that, yes, it is a dead body. Yes, it is a body of a man who likely hanged himself not too long after you arrived, as they put it, unfortunately, it was pretty fresh, and I hate it. That's disgusting, I have to say that, but it was a recent death. This man did this recently. That's bad enough. But of all the places you had to do this, why was it in the suicide forest? That is the dumbest thing you could have possibly have done. If you don't know, and I'm sure most of you are probably weird out because you've probably Googled it at this point, but if you don't know, that particular forest at the base of Mount Fuji is infamous for people going there to commit suicide. It is beyond
men, women,
infamous.
Or children, doesn't matter. They just take their lives there. It's pretty sad.
And exactly, and there's a reason for that. There's a couple reasons. One is the fact that, for one thing, Mount Fuji, that is the holiest mountain in the entirety of Japan. So there is a lot of spiritual connection there. But the thing about the suicide forest is that it is so easy to get lost. It looks pretty much the same for miles around.
Yeah.
It looks the same. And that's the reason why, people go there to do this act. They figure it won't matter because no one's going to find me. And unfortunately, that's the truth. There are so many deaths there that most of them we don't even get to recover bodies of. We don't know where they are. We just know that that's the last time they were spotted there, and we kind of put the pieces together from there. So this is a place that is legit haunted.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you believe in spirits and whatnot, this place is haunted if there ever was one.
Yeah.
And then Logan Paul goes and does this.
Absolutely pitiful. Absolutely disgusting.
As I said before, this is something that I think we all can agree is pretty much unforgivable.
I have had friends who've cut. I've had friends tell me they have had family can take their own lives. Seeing this legitimately upsets me terribly.
It does. But I will say a few things I think do need to be said. And again, Mr. Philip DeFranco did bring this up, so I applaud him for being the voice of reason in this situation. Is the fact that, yes, this is terrible. And yeah, Logan's first attempt at apology was pretty just stupid. It was terrible.
But
But
he was
he
sincere.
did put out another apology video, and I have seen this video, and I will at least say this much. I do believe that at this point, Mr. Paul does realize the weight of what he has done, and I do believe that he is actually sincerely sorry. I will give him that much, that I do believe that he is actually understanding that what he did was a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
Yep.
Which, if you noticed, he hasn't been posting on YouTube lately. So I think him taking a break is a pretty good sign that he understands what he has done.
I mean,
So,
yeah, I agree. Sorry,
So,
I'm sort of quiet. I'm just trying to pay respect.
no, it's fine. It's fine, and it should be. Specs have been paid and should be paid. You know,
Yeah.
this is not something that should have happened. It should have happened.
It
But it does point. But it does point out two very important things that I think we all should come take away from this. Is that one, YouTubers, we're not like some immortal gods or something like that. You know, we're human beings. We make mistakes. And Mr. Paul here, that's about as big of a mistake as you could probably make.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and this is something I will give him credit for, given his activity and given that last response video, I do think that he is actually taking serious time to reflect upon things. And I think that is probably the wisest decision he could make.
Yep.
So, even when YouTubers do really stupid stuff, and that they bring these countries like, heck, we'll go right back to Felix for the first two Adpocalypses. Do I really think that he is sorry for what he did? Considering the aftermath, I would like to think so.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Mr. Logan is. So, if there's any white, silver lining to all of this, is the fact that this is the kind of stuff that helps humanize these people. And
Agreed.
makes us really take a step back. Even if you're a crazy fan or a follower, take a step back and realize, hey, this guy or gal, they made a terrible mistake. And they're owning up to it like a human being.
And if you're saying he did nothing wrong, then you should probably watch my video, self-plug, where I look at some of those people and talk about them.
Yeah.
Or just look at my
Yeah.
Twitter, another self-plug. Actually, follow
Indeed.
Wormwood on Twitter, too. Yeah, so...
Yeah.
last thing,
Wormwood, yeah.
last thing we say before we go on to the next topic. If you ever,
Right.
ever feel like you are going through such a hard time and nobody understands you and you want to hurt yourself, you want to hurt others, keep in mind somebody understands. Just find someone, anyone, even if it's I understand, like, people say the National Suicide Hotline doesn't help, but, like, you know how many lives it saves a year? Like, I see videos on the internet where people prank call and it literally makes me disgusted. Even if you don't know the person, they will help you. And you just have to find someone who will help you. And
Very
we're
much
gonna
so.
leave on that note, where if you ever...
Well,
What were you
well,
saying?
I apologize for cutting you off. Yes, but there's just one little other thing I wanted to mention, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the point. The other point, though, that I wanted to make, and this one, I'm targeting this right at YouTube. Because this entire ordeal, as much as the first point that there was a silver lining, now we have another dark cloud, but this one is a lot darker and a lot more mysterious. Let's also take into consideration the fact that Logan is the one who pulled that video, not YouTube.
And it was number 10 on trending.
Not only that, that thing had over 6 million views before Logan took it down, and hundreds of thousands of likes.
And the new
Now,
video,
and
both
Mr.
apologies he made are trending.
Exactly. The thing is that, and again, Mr. DeFranco put this very, very nicely, so if you want the whole thing, go watch his material. He did a good bit on it. But the whole thing is, as he put it, and as I kind of agree, we have two things going on here. One of two things. Either A, YouTube is asleep at the wheel and was not paying attention, which, as Mr. DeFranco put it, if you look at the last 2.5 years, that's sort of scarily plausible at this point. Or option B,
Which
they
is
didn't
frightening.
react immediately because Logan is one of their golden boys, and they don't want to do anything to kind of destroy the career of somebody that's making them so much money.
Which is frightening.
It's very frightening. It's favoritism in a way that is corruptive, and I don't appreciate this. I'm not saying that that's the option. I'm saying that something is a little off. I don't know what. I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I do believe that this is like Adpocalypse. That's paranoia on one thing. This is actually some legit paranoia. I don't want to scare people, but I think it is worth considering that if a video got that popular, despite it so clearly violating YouTube policies in the worst way possible, somebody might want to check why that happened in the first place.
Very true.
But with that, let us move on to other things.
Which is much more positive news, and as you can tell from one profile picture by a user in this podcast, something we both enjoy. Pokemon
Yes.
Ultra Sun and Moon implications and the future of the franchise.
Indeed. Pokemon, I remember when Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon were announced, it was surprising because it hadn't been a year. It hadn't even been a year since Sun and Moon had come out that we were introduced that, we're getting new games already. And a lot of people were complaining, like, it's just going to be like a reskin, which, to be honest, in a lot of ways, that third or sequel games tend to be, but very much akin to Black 2 and White 2, they very much delivered what I believe is a very beautiful set of standalone games that works as its own thing. You don't have to have played Sun and Moon to be able to appreciate these new games, and I like that. That's very useful.
Yeah. I have not personally played Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I have seen 2 Let's Plays, one a Nuzlocke and another one a regular Let's Play. But I plan on getting it sometime in the future. Maybe one day I can get it for my birthday, which is coming up soon. Hey, Dad, if you're watching this video. Anyways, I have played Sun twice, and I'm currently playing through it a 3rd time. So I know how the games are. And I'll be more the person who, stands on the side and speaks about Pokemon Sun and Moon, the original ones. But, yeah, I don't know where we're going with this. How about you try and find somewhere to say?
Certainly. So, here's what I would say. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon do deliver a wonderful, tantalizing story, and I do believe it's probably one of the better ones they've done. I mean, they did pull something pretty unique that, for the first time, truly in a Pokemon game, not counting post-game, but for the main campaign, that for once, the actual main villain of the game is, in fact, a Pokemon.
Exactly.
Necrozma.
Which is really cool.
Which, it is, and it's never been done before. We've always had these human antagonists and everything, but, even in Sun and Moon, we kind of saw even our titular Team Skull, who seemed to be the baddies, really were just pawns in a bigger game, But now in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we see that even, the true evil, quote, Aether Foundation, in reality, they don't know what they're in for either. Unfortunately, and I would say spoilers, but it's been long enough. Lucamine in particular finds out that, she thinks that she's technology, she can go and fight and control Necrozma. Ha, ha, ha. No. No, even with Guzma, they failed miserably. In fact, all they managed to do is let the monster out of its cage.
Oh yeah, Guzma? Might as well pull up Guzma's boss theme while we're at it.
Yes. Yeah, very good music track, very unique, definitely distinct from anything that's been heard.
It's definitely my favorite track in the entire game.
Yeah. But yeah. So that was very unique, and I very much appreciate that. And I'm a lore guy, so I very much enjoyed how they wanted to basically tie Necrozma to explaining everything in Gen 7, simply by saying, that when in its true original form, in which it is basically a god. It is the ultra space equivalent to our Arceus. It is a god, basically. Yep. Now, currently a broken god, but a god nonetheless. And it's
a guy without 700 in all stats. I can't wait for Mega Arceus to have 999 in all stats and have a Mega Evolution. A Mega Evolution
Oh,
with a Mega
right.
Evolution with a Z move with a Mega Evolution.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of the world being on a stack of turtles. Anyways, oh, hold on. Anyways, um, with that said, again, it was kind of interesting because they explain, the Z rings, the Z power rings, the Z crystals, all of that is literally just pieces and fragments of Necrozma's power, which I think is very cool because that was the thing on the Sun and Moon that always left me quite scratching my head because we got an explanation for what happened, how Mega Evolution started, in the generation it debuted in, but Sun and Moon didn't really explain what Z crystals were all about. Now, with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, we know that the Z crystals got their power from the light of Necrozma, and we know that the Z power rings, we know that that sparkling stone that's embedded in there, that is the piece of Necrozma that was broken off that reverted it to its broken state.
Yep.
So I enjoyed that very much. But let's talk about something more important. Let's talk about Ultra Space. In Oris, it was very much hinted at the existence of multiple universes, which to be fair,
at first when I first played Ultra and Ultra Sun and Ultra Alpha Sapphire. Okay, when I first played Ultra Sapphire, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I literally just got done telling myself, don't say that, don't say that. When I first got done playing Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I thought that was stupid. I thought, why would there have to be a war? This is a children's game. I'd rather they stick to more kiddie plot. Ever since then, I've learned to, like, that plot sometimes makes a game better, but, yeah.
Right. And admittedly, when I first looked at it, I thought, yeah, I mean, in truth, in real world terms, the idea of multiple universes existing is not a new idea, and personally, I actually do believe that it is the case. I personally believe in the theory.
I do too.
And they kind of use it as a plot device for the Delta episode. Not said directly, but Zinnia did pretty much heavily imply it. And that was okay. That's fine. It was a one-off thing. And then we get to Sun and Moon. We introduce the Ultra Space. At that point, we're really not actually told what Ultra Space is. Is it next dimensions in the universe? What is it? What's going on here? And then Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon come out, and we find out. And this is something that I've actually talked about in my research reports, that Ultra Space itself is literally what it sounds like. It is literally the space between universes. It is an area that links multiple universes together through these wormholes, the Ultra wormholes. And as a concept, that is very unique, and at the same time, it also denotes something a little disturbing.
That being?
When we look at the Ultra Wormholes, one of the first places we have to go to, of course, is the city of Ultra Megalopolis, the place where the Ultra Recon Squad came from.
Yep.
To be fair, their world, from my perspective, is basically akin to a parallel version of our own Earth. It's definitely different, but these people are clearly people. I mean, we've seen them, granted they have their specialized suits allowing them to travel through ultra space safely, but we see them with the devices turned off while on our planet. They can breathe our air, which would be really weird if they didn't come from a variant of Earth itself, or at least some sort of Earth-like planet.
Yes.
So that confirms that at least some of these universes that we're seeing in ultra space are parallel universes, that they're mostly the same to some degree to ours, but there are key differences. And as to, and I know some people have brought this up, as to why their skin is blue, two reasons. One, it may just be a natural coloration tint, and two, keep in mind, they've kind of been living in darkness for a very long period of time, so sometimes when that happens, I've seen organisms like cave-dwelling organisms that become so pale they almost have a bluish color to them, so it does happen. But the other thing, though, that makes it kind of interesting is that we travel to some of these other worlds, and we notice something very unique about them.
Yes.
All the ultra wilds and the ultra spaces. When we are in there, there's something very unique about that. We are there, but we don't necessarily need the Ultra Recon specialized suit in order to breathe. We don't need it to exist in these environments.
Yeah.
And you have to think from a realistic perspective, that's pretty darn weird.
I didn't think about the logic of it until now. Yes, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And then we look at some of these places, like the Ultra Desert. It seems pretty hostile, but at the same time, Fairmosa seem to survive there pretty well. Look at the Ultra Jungle. That's a beautiful place. The Ultra Jungle is a gorgeous environment, home for our lovely Buzzwole friends, who I will admit, I didn't think they would actually live in flippin' volcanoes. I don't know if it's just the one, but apparently they live in volcanoes. That is a weird thing for a bug fighting type, but it's Buzzwole. So I'm gonna let it go for that point. But, you know, these are vibrant worlds, and as weird and alien as they are, they're not so much different from what our world is like. So,
True. We do have volcanoes,
so what I think...
we do have cities, we do breathe in oxygen, or carbon dioxide, depending on what organism you are.
Right. And the other censure that puts it to me is that, especially the Ultra Wilds, we find Pokemon there that we do recognize. Even legendary Pokemon from our world. So, what seems to be going on here is that from what we've explored so far of the Ultra Space, these are all, in my opinion, parallel versions of our own planet. That what we are seeing is an interconnected matrix of alternate Earth-like entities.
You're inside a simulation. Inside a simulation. Inside a Taco Bell. Inside a simulation.
Although, to be fair, for some Taco Bells, that might explain a few things. But, with that said, so, we're seeing that, for one thing, we're not alone. I think that's the most blatant thing that could be said there. If you people didn't believe in aliens, guess what? Oh, they exist. They exist outside of our own universe, at the very least.
Here's my theory on aliens. They exist, even if they're not as big as us, even though they're not as big as elephants. They might be microscopic organisms that just live off, like, not even walk, like, just live. They could be one-celled organisms that's still an alien. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah. We'll also keep in mind, we also, and some people still deny it, but we also know that you people can talk about LGM and BEM as much as you want. I don't completely know because something still seems a little wonky about them. If you want to think they're aliens, you go right ahead. But as far as I know of, in terms of things that we know scientifically 100% were not from this world, we do have two Pokemon that we do know are completely extraterrestrial in origin.
Clefairy and Clefable, correct?
No.
Oh.
No, they are very much a product of this planet. They are definitely terrestrial in origin. No. There's the one that is super obvious, which is Deoxys.
Yep.
And there's the one that is only obvious if you understand its lore, and that is Kyurem.
Huh.
Kyurem is an extraterrestrial life form. And I would go and explain that, but I'll be honest, I've done so much research on that we'd be here for another hour, so I'm just going to move on from that point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For the sake of the podcast. Well, I'll save that for a future video report.
If it says anything, he's going to be paleontologist?
Yeah, that's something else I'm working on in real life, yes.
Yeah, so he does his research.
Yeah. But with that said, so it does demonstrate that, I mean, not only are we not alone, but our universe is not the only one out there. There are others out there. But there's one other thing, though, that is kind of, in my opinion, disturbing, and probably the one implication that I think should be noted. And that is simply this. If you have a simple outcome, like you either succeed at doing something or you will fail at something, there's always a positive and a negative outcome for everything. Unfortunately, Ultra Space has shown us that goes for the fate of planets as well. I would like to draw attention to the hardest Ultra Beast zone to actually reach, which is the Ultra Ruin. If you hadn't figured it out already, it is what is left of a different version of our Earth.
Yep.
After being invaded by Guzzlord. Guzzlord is kind of unique among the Ultra Beasts in that we don't actually know where its home world is. The Ultra Ruin is not where it's supposed to come from. It's just another version of Earth that was taken over and pretty much eaten by them. But it does pose this unfortunate question, especially with Guzzlord. And this is and the question, the same thing that I believe the Island Guardians, the Tapus, pretty much had in their thoughts, is that what happens to our world when we get invaded by something that doesn't belong? I think that's a huge paranoia. All people have, like alien invasion. That's a paranoia that's been decades old, if not centuries old. But it presents it in
TVs. But like as soon as radio broadcasts and radio television shows started coming out, started announcing stuff on radios.
Exactly. Yeah. But this brings in an implication, though, that is even more frightening. We thought we had to be afraid from things from our own universe. Now we're realizing that is no longer the limit. Because, and this is the nature of Ultra Space, it's unstable. These Ultra Wormholes seem to open at random, you know? Granted, they are very much influenced by certain entities, but it tends to be random, and I feel sorry for a lot of these creatures because they get pulled from their world into ours, and they did not ask for that trip. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But for the most part, though, most of these Ultra Beasts, they're not bad creatures. They're no different than you and I. I mean, you think about this. Like, a good example, Planet of the Apes. You're transported to an alternate world.
I'm going to interrupt you. We've been talking about this for like 15 minutes. Well, can we have like 5 minutes left dedicated to the subject?
Of course, yeah, I'm sorry. I will move on shortly, yes.
No, my apologies for interrupting you and cutting you off short.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know. I have my way of tirades.
Yeah.
So, to be point blank, these creatures, you know, they're scared. You know, this is not a world they belong in, so they're going to be hostile because they don't know what to do. They want to go home. This is not their home. So, you have a sense that you do want to feel sorry for them. And then Guzzlord comes along and shatters that image completely because they don't care. These are things literally designed for destruction. Ironically, the most competitively useless of the Ultra Beasts is also by far the most dangerous of them all. And it does create this idea that this world that we live in may be a lucky one, because we've had Guzzlords appear here, but they haven't destroyed it. But the sad thing is, we can see very clearly that there are universes out there where they did. And I think that should give us a greater sense of self-awareness that, you know, we think that our world is nice, as much chaos as it is, that we at least can understand the system. What Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon for the Pokemon universe tells me is that we thought we understood the system, and now the system is literally sending planet-eating monsters at us to tell us that we can go screw ourselves.
Yep.
So point blank, what I believe Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon does the most for the Pokemon universe, I think it shows that we shouldn't be so complacent thinking that everything is just manageable in our world, because there are things far beyond us that can influence us and have influenced us and should be recognized if we are to truly understand how the world around us actually works.
Yes. Do you want to end it off there, or last thoughts?
I think personally, my last thoughts, if you haven't played Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, what the heck are you doing? Go out, buy at least one copy, just play through it. It is worth it. It is enjoyable, and it is very much worth it. It is not a rehash of Sun and Moon. It may seem similar, but trust me, you'll see enough difference that you will come to appreciate it as an independent game.
Alright. Now, we have the, your good old friend, Karma Police FES take over. Sorry, I'm burping a whole bunch. I just got done eating. Well, I was kind of eating while you were talking because I knew that was the only time I would be be able to.
Right.
So, you have to give me a second.
Yep.
Alright, just want to put on some background music. So, we are going to talk about some gaming controversies and bad games. Now, I'm just going to pull up Google. When it comes to gaming controversies, let's think. I'm going to focus on one in particular, which you probably already heard of. Actually, it starts off from, it stems from a whole bunch of issues. So, in 2016, Overwatch made loot boxes popular because people would buy loot boxes. They would spend $50 on this for basically simulated gambling. Now, I think that's absolutely awful, and the only time I've ever bought a loot box in my life is I bought 2 of them, and then I'm like, yeah, that was a waste of money. But, yeah, so then some games started coming out and implementing loot boxes as main features. Examples would be Middle-earth: Shadows of Mordor. Another example would be Destiny 2. Now, people are already getting fed up with this. As you can imagine, paying $60 for a game, plus they have to charge for sometimes season passes and such, especially with Destiny, where and then you insert loot boxes, which, like, it's ridiculous. That could be anywhere from like $60 to $150 just due to these loot boxes and DLCs. Now, I'm fine with DLC myself, as long as it's a good price for me, you know what I mean? Do you agree, Wormwood? But that's you can speak.
Well, and I might be beating you to the punch on this one. I apologize for this, but you know, the whole thing I look at loot boxes is that if you're gonna do something like that, I think it's okay personally if it's for stuff that doesn't actually affect gameplay.
Exactly.
You know, like
you just
skins or things of that nature. You know,
stole the words right out of my mouth. Okay, so it's good to know you have the same opinion as me. So there was a certain game that decided to push the waters. Now, Star Wars Battlefront 1 came out in 2015 with actually pretty good reviews. Let me look up Star Wars Battlefront 1 reviews. Where's Battlefront 1 reviews? Sorry, I'm a very slow typer. Alright, I'm looking it up right now. Oh, okay. Google decided to switch my main search engine to Yahoo.
I'll be honest, that happened to me a while ago. It took me forever to figure out how to get back to Google.
Okay, do you mind looking up the Metacritic score of Star Wars Battlefront 1 EA?
Yeah, I can do that real quick, sure.
Alright. Either way, it was, actually pretty decent. So, Star Wars Battlefront scores were pretty decent. Sorry, I repeat myself. But, since they were, there was an outcry by fans because they thought, I want the original, pandemic Star Wars Battlefront games. We want ones with story in that. So EA promised, no DLC. We're going to have a giant open experience with frickin' Star Wars printed all over it. You're gonna have episodes 1 through 7, plus 8 after episode 8 comes out, and you're going to have a campaign, and it's gonna be a blast. And everyone hopped on board because you're like, EA, you're finally doing something good. What the hell? But they decided.
Then came the beta.
So during the beta, people were like, this is odd. We wonder why there's loot boxes. So the loot boxes were affecting gameplay because they would help you. It's basically how you got your character unlocked, how you leveled up characters. Now, that was a bit different from what EA was implying, but oh well, people thought it was pretty bad. And when the game fully came out at full release, the game got mobbed with terrible reviews. I think a 67. Yep. Did you look up the EA Star Wars Battlefront 1 review?
Yes, I did actually. The ranges are from the high 60s to low 70s for the original.
Yeah. For Star Wars Battlefront 2, I think they range somewhere from like 1 to 5. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And so EA was EA was hopping on that board, and they end up somebody on Reddit decided asking EA, look at this is ridiculous. I don't want to pay this much because we already pay $60. So some PR manager, which I really feel sorry for, had to type up some bullshit excuse, which is now currently sitting at the most disliked post on Reddit.
Yep.
Reddit history. That is mind-blowing to me. So that happened.
Yep.
And then they had to take out the loot boxes. Not because EA didn't want backlash. It's because Star Wars. Disney called up EA and threatened to revoke the license. That is absolutely hilarious to me. Now, in one day, EA stock managed to go down by 3% day of release because they had to remove the loot boxes. Absolutely fucking hilarious. Now, this shows that people are not going to put up with loot boxes anymore, unless you're a Destiny 2 fan, then you're put up with Stockholm Syndrome. But, yeah, people are not going to put up with this anymore. Plus, this year had, some funny bad games released. Now, there are obviously bad games like Star Wars Battlefront 2. There were Sonic Forces, which I didn't think was too bad, but then again, I didn't play it. I just watched a few Let's Plays. There's a few other shining omissions, but there's games like, Life of Black Tiger. It is a mobile game that was uploaded to PlayStation. Keep in mind, this came out the same day the Nintendo Switch was announced. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was their rival to the Nintendo Switch. That's hilarious. Sony's.
Yeah.
So, Life of Black Tiger. Let me look up the commercial. No, actually, let's not. Life of Black Tiger was a mobile game on PlayStation for $10, even though it was free on mobile. And basically, you were a tiger that went around killing things. That's it. The wallpaper on the PlayStation Network store was literally a Google image, except put in paint.net and used the hue tool. Absolutely hilarious. There's also this one, which I'm gonna Google the name of. I'm just gonna Google poorly translated Nintendo Switch games.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Switch games. Top 5 worst Switch games not worth buying. Oh yeah, the Switch port of WWE 2K18 is pretty bad. I don't know how you got a port bad, but they did. Yeah, Vroom in the Night Sky. So Vroom in the Night Sky is a game about I gotta pause this guy's video so he doesn't accidentally remove my video. Vroom in the Night Sky is a game where you're anime women and you drive bicycles and broken English while listening to J-pop and flying in lesser and more repetitive levels and more broken levels than Superman 64, featuring the rings from Superman 64. These are literal jokes, and this is hilarious. Like, 2017 had such great games. Now, I'm just going to list off a bunch of great games. Actually, I'm just going to look over my shelf and list off all the great games. Okay, let's look over. We had the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. We had Persona 5. We had Resident Evil 7. We had Rock Band DLC. We had South Park The Fractured Whole. We had Everyone's Golf.
Yep.
Do you know any missions? You're obviously going to say Pokemon Ultra Moon and Metroid Samus Returns, which I agree with. What else?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, those have been... Oh, Cuphead.
Cuphead, yeah, Cuphead. I have not played Cuphead yet, but hopefully I can one day. Cuphead's pretty good, though. From what
It's one of those rare games that is so beautiful that I could see there being riots in the streets if they did make a sequel to this point, you know?
Yeah.
That's gonna take a long time, but hey.
Yep, I'm gonna end the stream real quick and then just edit this together. Oh wait, do I have to? Oh no, never mind. But anyways, so Cuphead is pretty good, and then yeah, you have all those good games, and then you have those bad controversies. Now, I think 2017 was a great year for video games. We just listed video games that would make it in the top 10 greatest games. Plus, there's Horizon Zero Dawn, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There's frickin' Mario Kart Deluxe 8. There's Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There's too many to list, which is shocking compared to like games like 2015, where I can only think of 2 games that came out that year that were good, and that's Undertale and Fallout 4. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Which is like it's kind of funny, disappointing, but like more funny to me at this point. But since we're past the bad games, how about we move to do you have any gaming controversies or bad games you want to bring up?
Um, I mean, not really that I can think of at the moment. Although I would like to give just one little special note. And this is something that's kind of continued on, not just from 2017, but from 2016 and into the past. I always say that even every year because little itty bitty things keep happening to keep reinforcing it. If you ever want to get into working for a video game company, rule number one: do not work at Konami. Stay
Exactly.
the hell away.
Jim Sterling, as he says it and as he puts it straight, hashtag fuck Konami.
Yeah,
Jim Sterling says it great. Yep.
indeed.
Plus, also, loot boxes. I don't care if you spend your money on it. It's not my decision. But I feel bad for the people who have, like, gambling habits who don't want to spend their money, but they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in my personal opinion, to the governments who have claimed so, personally, do I want to see loot boxes gambling?
Yes.
I gotta be honest. And the legal definition, yeah, it is basically.
Because it is gambling. Which is, sad
Yeah.
to say, but oh well. Can't really do anything
It is
about
what
it
it
at
is.
the moment. Yep.
Yep.
Now we're going to move on to something you want to talk about. So, how about you talk about it?
Certainly. So, 2017 was a very unique year for one particular horror genre. You know, I am a bit of a movie buff. I have,
Wait, pause.
I couldn't tell you.
What do I use as background music for this?
Good point. Hmm.
I'm thinking Resident Evil 4 music.
Yeah, that could probably work. Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 music. Alright, you can keep talking.
Okay. So, this year was kind of special, you know? I'm a bit of a movie buff as well. I mean, I'll be honest, I have enough freaking VHSs and DVDs to run a blockbuster out of this house and make money off of it. But one genre that I've always loved as a child, even as a child, and most people don't know this, but my favorite genre is actually horror. If you people know from the 90s, I watched the show Tales from the Crypt when I was 6 years old. Never had a nightmare from it. That is how deeply ingrained that genre is in my life. And yes, I have the entire collection on DVD.
I
I'm
was
not
about
an
to
idiot.
ask that too.
Yeah, of course I have the entire collection on DVD. What do you think I am, insane?
Nah, for my scary quote unquote shows, I like the Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone's great.
Oh, Twilight Zone's a great classic, yeah. But Tales from the Crypt, that was where it was when I was a child. Back when we had HBO. Yeah, that was the stuff. I mean, come on. It's like, literally, let's be honest. It is the only show in television history to be hosted by a dead man. So,
True.
you gotta give it props for that. But this year was something different. You see, the thing about horror films, especially like your kind of traditional slash movies, like the ones that are the most popular, are the ones that are gonna get the worst reviews because, you know, that's the kind of things like, let's be honest, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. These are not critically applauded films.
They're just
alright?
popular because they just got popular.
Exactly, it's dumb shit, but dumb shit sells.
Here's the thing,
That's
like, let me try and say something. I don't like the Saw
Sure.
movies. I like them as jokes because they're just funny to watch. Like, they're just funny to
Don't
see
get
how...
me started, because that's one of my favorite franchises, so we're never going to get on that topic.
Okay, I think they're pretty bad. At least the later ones. I like 1, 2, and 3.
Admittedly, I will say 1 is still the best. I mean, I will say this. It is a series that you can only really appreciate if you really pay attention to the lore. And admittedly, the lore is a little convoluted, so I understand general populace like it. I love it though because I am a lore nut. I will pay attention to that crap, and so I can follow the continuity.
And I
very
recommend
easily.
any of you guys watch Your Movie Sucks review of the Saw movies and Jigsaw. Even
Yeah.
though he's even guys, do you think Your Movie Sucks will give me a shout out because I gave him a shout out?
Right. Right. But again, though, unfortunately, yes, like Saw also proves the rule that these are generally not the most critically acclaimed films, you know? But then something happened this year. Something that hasn't happened in a very long time. We got one of those rare gems. A film that is not only beautifully belonging in the horror genre, but at the same time is critically applauded as one of the best films of the entire year, and that is the reimagining of Stephen King's It. Now, if you haven't seen the original made-for-TV movie, you might as well, for comparison's sakes. I will take nothing from Tim Curry. Tim Curry is the only reason why you should rewatch that series. I am dead serious on that one. He did a fantastic performance as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. But at the same time, it was a product of its time, and it has not aged well at all. Now, when people first saw, like the very first thing that was revealed for this entire thing, I remember, the first thing they ever revealed was a still image of Bill Skarsgård in the full Pennywise outfit. And I remember that there was a lot of mixed reactions to it. Some people thought that this was the thing. I was among them. Other people said, oh, that's not scary. It's not scary at all. Here's the thing, though, and I did my research on this to understand what's going on here. Just talking about the costume for a minute itself, I'm sorry, but I understand that Stephen King did originally intend Pennywise to be a combination between Ronald McDonald and Bozo the Clown, but I will say that the way he is depicted in this particular film is extremely it is infinitely more appropriate to the mythos of the character, because you have to understand, yes, he may look like Bozo Clown, Ronald McDonald hybrid, sure, but the thing is, Pennywise is centuries old. Millennia old, actually. And I won't spoil the lore of what Pennywise actually is.
Don't try to spoil the movie, even though
I'm not going to spoil it. You deserve to figure that one out on your own, because it is amazing. But what's very much apparent is that this thing is been around in Derry, Maine for centuries. And this is reflective of its appearance, because if you take a look at the costume, there are bits and pieces of it taken from all kinds of eras: Victorian era, Elizabethan
I'm sure
era.
pull up a picture and put it on the screen.
Yes, that's a beautiful idea. Yes, so we have medieval era even. Nothing actually fits within one time period. It is literally I guess you get the colloquial term, a Frankenstein outfit, and this is reflective because it is known that this is, and yes, we recognize Pennywise is a shapeshifter. That's not spoiling anything. We all know this. But the thing is, Pennywise is its favorite form. And so it would make sense for it to be this kind of hodgepodge. It has been through so many centuries that it has taken bits and pieces of costumes from these different eras and mixed and matched them, little attributes that it finds useful, that it likes. And so it very much is more reflective of a actively thinking entity that is purposely stitching this together by its own personal preferences. Done. I think that is very beautifully done. And then looking at the, Skarsgård himself in this outfit, there is very much a sort of quality to
Your mic is
it.
echoing again. Lagging out.
Oh dear, hold on a second.
I'm just pulling up the image right now, so yeah.
Alright, hold on. Try this again.
I'm gonna try and replace your Master Ball image with Pennywise.
That's funny.
Okay, it didn't work. Didn't work. I'm just gonna keep it like that for the rest of the video.
Okay, alright, fine. But anyways, but yeah. And and then looking at the entire outlook of Pennywise, it has a very childlike quality to it. Even the gloves are just so form-fitting; they almost look like porcelain. Very much, it resembles like an old antique. And with it, though, it does kind of have a very unique appearance. But there's one overlying quality, one overwhelmingly apparent thing that makes, to me, this Pennywise the definitive Pennywise. And that is, it exudes one particular type of emotional thought process, one particular feeling that is incredibly important, and I make a point to describing it, and that is the feeling that this Pennywise is sinister.
Oof. Yeah,
now,
I agree. I was about to say more like frightening, because the original Penny. I've seen the original the made for TV.
Yeah.
It's not. There's very few scenes that frighten me. More of them disturb me, but I can get past that. Nothing that would give me nightmares when I was a kid. Probably because I was a very tough kid, but yeah, you get what I mean.
Right.
But this one, I've seen the way beginning, because I decided to pirate a bit of it, and then I realized, don't wanna pirate anymore.
Right.
I saw where he takes the kid at the beginning of the movie. That was much scarier than the original one. Much more terrifying.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, and that's actually getting to something that I will cover about the film that is very groundbreaking. But when I use the term sinister, I don't mean that just as any old descriptor. I actually mean that for a very specific reason. When I think of the word sinister, I think of something that, at one hand, like a lot of people first reacted, oh, that doesn't look scary. But when you take a good look at it and you really mull over it, you get the general feeling that something is not right here. You can't quite put your finger on it, but there is something extremely disturbing and unnatural about this appearance. The thing about sinister, however, is that I use that term because that is something that a child does not pick up on. When something is sinister to you, you may not be able to put your finger on it, but you know it's wrong because of past life experiences that tell you that certain aspects about how it looks or how it behaves are not right. They're not natural. When you're a child, you don't have that. So when a child will look at Pennywise, if they have no preconceived notions of what they should or should not be afraid of, they're not going to be afraid of it. It's only us as adults, which ironically are the individuals that Pennywise does a good job of keeping away from everything. It's only as an adult that you see this thing, and you have those life experiences telling you in the back of your mind, get away from it. You know that there is something terribly wrong with this creature. Even if it just looks like a person, you instinctively know that this is not normal, that there is something wrong. And I very much appreciate that because that fits the mythos of the character. It's designed that it's not entirely designed to attract children, but it is designed to not necessarily, draw fearful attention immediately. Like, if a child first sees it, it wants to make sure that that child isn't instantly running away. It's an appearance that seems placid to them. And so, as an adult, I very much like that because it's a nice play on the whole point, that, a lot of the adults, like in the film, when they were our age, that was when the original miniseries of It came out. And so now we're looking back here as an adults, and we can see this is why we are terrified of Pennywise just by looking at this, because we know that there's something sinister about it. There's something not right. And so I very much appreciate the time and effort that went into designing the character for that. Now, to talk about the film itself, there are a lot of things this film does right, but I'll highlight a few of them. First of all, and you mentioned the first scene when we see the unfortunate demise of poor Georgie.
Yeah. Hey, Georgie. Hey, Georgie. Love it. So good.
Yes. Now, that particular scene highlights a couple cool things that I like about it. One is that we see very much, that this whole Pennywise thing, it is taking this form, to pretend to be a clown, but as we pay attention, the sense that Pennywise doesn't actually understand how to be a clown. He doesn't understand how to be human. And that's the thing, because It's trying to be, but clearly it's not. So there is that kind of sense that a very, I would say, an otherworldly sense to its existence. Now, with that said, when we see what happens to poor Georgie, what kind of stands out, and one thing, one of the biggest rules in horror, that goes for almost even like crazy films like the Friday the 13th franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street, all these have one very important rule. Yeah, I know.
My apologies.
It's
Is it
fine.
on my end? Do I have to fix my internet? Try it again. I'm just gonna raise your volume a bit.
Okay, that's fine. So the thing that this film does is that it breaks one of the cardinal rules of horror films, and that's one of the, you will notice this, and I know Friday the 13th especially the fourth film, one of the biggest things is that because they are innocent, they're not doing anything wrong with this kind of stuff.
Jeez, it is lagging really bad.
No! Oh no.
Let's leave the chat. I'm just gonna leave the call for a second. You leave the call, then you call me back.
Alright.
Sorry about this, guys. I don't think you guys mind, though.
Testing.
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 Yeah, I can hear you.
Alright, this works. Alright, you can, you sound much better. Alright, let's go.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So they basically break one of the cardinal rules, that you don't harm children. And I think that's very important to the story of this entire movie, because the whole point is that it eats children. This is tried and true. This is the point made. And the film does, I think, a good job of illustrating this, and it doesn't hold back. It does not hold back an inch. And I very much applaud it for that, because it's pertinent to the story of it, so it does make sense. In addition to this, the story itself, what makes it great, and I think one of the major reasons why it was so critically acclaimed, is that it's not just a story about it, it's a story about the Losers Club. It's about these kids and their life situations, what they have to face, what brings them together. It's a coming-of-age story, as some have put it. And that is something you don't really get to hear coming from a horror film. But it is very much the case. It is a coming-of-age story, of reflecting these characters, that they're coming to a point in their lives where childhood is kind of ending and they have to move on to something else. And stuck in betwixt all of this is this entity, this monstrosity that has been in this town for centuries, feeding off of its children and citizens.
Yeah.
That helps bring a level of depth to these characters that really was not fully explored too much, I think, in the original miniseries. But they do it so beautifully here. They do it so beautifully. And so we get to see each of the Losers Club's members, all their personal struggles and issues. We finally get to see all of them. And we get to see them develop as characters over the course of the film, which I very much like. So it has that going for it. And the other thing, and the one thing that I think is probably, in my opinion, maybe not the most important, but definitely one of the biggest reasons I think it was such a success, is that how they did it, and this is true, it is one of the few films done based on a Stephen King novel that Stephen King himself completely approves of.
Yes.
Now, that is something most people will think, oh, well, I guess that's okay. No, you don't understand this.
Does he agree
Stephen
with
King
Cujo?
is...
Because Cujo is my favorite movie of all time, and if it gets a remake, Cujo should.
Yeah, but it's definitely... It's picky about his work. He's very picky about that. To tell you how picky, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, he hates it. Even to this day, he hates it. That film is critically applauded, and he hates it. That should give you an indication of the kind of picky individual he is about how certain things are portrayed. And yet, when this film's first surfaced, people were concerned, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be effective? And they lent to Stephen King, and Stephen King went to production. He looked at Skarsgård, he saw the material they were doing, how Skarsgård was performing. He came out there, and I remember his tweet, maybe not word for word, but in a general sense, he said, "Everyone, there's nothing to worry about. They have it under control." And even when looking back on it, he very much has a positive opinion about the film. He very much enjoys the way the characters were portrayed and how Pennywise was portrayed. In particular, and I quote, he thought Skarsgård's performance was great. And coming from Stephen King, that is a tremendous compliment. And I think we can all agree, like, Bill Skarsgård, he's a nice guy. You would never imagine him as Pennywise. But then you see him in the film and, ooh, holy shnikes.
Oh, okay.
It's an amazing performance.
So,
right.
Any last words?
Yeah, just a few quick things. To give you an idea, and I think that this is going to be the start of something very beautiful, is that, if anyone paid attention to their production, is that Skarsgård, when he was first brought onto set, it was after some of the child actors already done some of their bit parts, and but when he was brought on, he was never introduced beforehand. When the child actors were first introduced to them, it was him as Pennywise, and very much so. He almost never really broke character. When you saw him on set, he was Pennywise. Not Skarsgård, Pennywise. And it got to the point at certain points where he actually did make one of the actors cry a little bit because of just how terrifying he was and how terrifying his presence was. So, but at the same time, he was very professional about it, and there was a great chemistry between a lot of the child actors and Skarsgård. So, I think that combined with that, I think that this movie really shows that horror still can be something that everyone can enjoy and find something they like about it. That's fine. And as a whole, if you haven't seen the film, please, I recommend it. Go and see it somehow, and be like the rest of us and wait patiently but excitedly for part 2, because this only covers the child portion of the original novel. We still have an entire second era to go, and I promise it will have more scares and likely more lore to explain Pennywise that is going to make it that much more riveting of a sequel.
Alright. And I really did think that was the best segment so far, so good job with that. I will give you... that was definitely the best segment so far. So, now we're going to go back to me. So how has this gone? It's gone between you and me, then me, then you, then me, then you. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Sure.
And we're going to end this off with me, and a little game I would like to call Persona 4, and just Persona in general, especially Persona 5. Now, Persona 5 was a game I was hyped for this year. Usually I never get excited for video games. Now, Wormwood, why don't you say what you know about the Persona series?
Unfortunately, I don't know a lot, but I understand the Persona series is basically the whole idea of unlocking, as you might say, the titular object, your persona, which is a reflection of your innermost self, your innermost power, something that takes a tremendous amount of willpower, because you must self-harm yourself. You must peel off the face that you used to hide your true self.
That is Persona 5. Each game has a different way of summoning your persona.
Right. Well, again, like I said, I'm not too familiar with the series.
Once again, I still think that's a pretty good summary for Persona 5. But
yeah, but
I'm going to be
in general, right. The thing I will know about that I can tell you that is that it's very much heavily based off of the Greater Arcana.
Yes.
Which does lead to some very interesting things, especially Persona 3, which is, I think, probably my favorite, just because I very much like how they treated the actual Greater Arcana in that game. It's like the first time that I can really see whether Greater Arcana are actually represented by actual entities. So these kind of spiritual monsters that you actually have to fight. And I kind of like that idea. I very much like that idea. It always it gave me vibes like another horror series that I like very much is the House of the Dead series. Like all the bosses in the House of the Dead series, their names, not counting Overkill because it's a prequel and it doesn't count, but all the main series games, they're all based off of names of cards from the Greater Arcana, so it has that similar theme.
So like,
and I very much
Wild
like
Card,
that.
Death, I forget the other
Well,
one.
not quite Wild Card, but Death. Like in the House of the Dead series, Death is basically this oversized mutant security guard wielding a giant club made from skulls.
All
So
right.
it is very much a bringer of said death.
Alright, now, Persona means a lot to me, because it was a game to help me out of my depression. It was a game that just means so much. You know what? I'm gonna switch over to, Persona music real quick. Persona, 4, no, Persona Q, Light Up the Night, P3, Extended. Light up the fire up in the night. I don't know how it goes. I just know it's good. Alright, so Persona means a lot to me because in such a short period of time I've grown so attached to the series, and I have made so many friends through it. I have had so many great discussions. Shin Megami Tensei Network on Facebook. People on there mean so much to me because of how the group is. I have such great discussions because of it, and it helped me open up to people, to which ended up making me become great friends with people like Salty or Scotty, Robert or Laplex202, people like Tuna Fish Station, people like Dreamcast, people like Fishstick, 1396 I think her last numbers are in her name. All those people I have met in person over this series. Such great friends, such nice people. And this game means so much to me because I'm gonna go personal. Because, like, Persona 4 hit me at a time where it just, every character's issues I had. Persona 4 is a game where you have to pursue your true self. Basically there's a spree of murders going on and you're put in a TV. You fight a shadow in there, and the shadow self is your true self. If you don't admit to your shadow, then you die. There's let's look at some of the characters. Like, there's Kanji, which is one of the ones I don't relate with at all. Who's he is sexually confused, so his shadow is an overly portrayed gay person, and then he has to fight the shadow and admit, hey, look at, I have these feelings. There's Naoto, which doesn't want to be treated like a kid, and who cross-dresses. No, she's not transgender. I hate when people get that confused. No, she just dresses as a male so she can be recognized as an adult, because more people in Japanese society are recognized as adults, and she's 15 and she doesn't think she's worth anything because of her age. Which is like, I know how that feels. There's Chie, there's Yukiko, there's Chie, there's Yukiko, there's Yosuke, there's Rise, there's Teddy. All these people mean so much to me. Now, these characters mean so much to me because I had their issues at one point. I know what my issues are. What I used to be, a person I used to be, is I used to argue days and days and never admit I'm wrong because I just would feel terrible. I would feel legitimately sick if I had to admit I'm wrong, but that's not how humans act. That is not how you make friends. Sometimes you have to admit who you are, and sometimes you have to look at yourself and see who you really are. Sometimes you have to pursue your true self in order to become better. There's Persona 3, which is pretty good. Oh my god. Spoiler here. You can skip to about 2 minutes in. Shinjiro dies in that game, and oh my god, it is one of the few video game scenes that make me cry. Jesus, especially after his funeral, especially at his morning at school, and the kids up front, he's like, oh, he's probably some punk, and Junpei stands up and is like, shut up. And they're like, what's your issue? And he's like, I said, shut up. And the teacher tells him to sit down, and Junpei's like, tisk. Jesus. And Akihiko cries at his morning. It's so fucking sad. And then Persona at the exact same time is so wacky, because it's just like, Persona at the exact same time is so wacky because you have in Persona 2 Innocent Sin, the main boss is the Führer himself, Adolf Hitler. That is the main villain. You knew that already, Wormwood, right?
Oh yeah.
There are demons, which are literally penis monsters.
Oh yeah, that one.
Is that too?
Yeah.
In Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, he says something like, all he does is make sexual innuendos the entire time you fight him in boss fights. It's terrible. Absolutely disgusting, but it's hilarious. I have a funny story, I'm gonna save in case I ever tell another stream. But, the games mean so much to me. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because Persona 5 came out this year, and I discovered Persona in, like, January. Which, over this past year, I've experienced so many good things just because of this one series, and it is living proof that video games can change your life forever. Do you agree that a video game, like to you, Pokemon is probably my Persona, right?
Yeah, I say that's fair.
Yes, it's like it just means absolutely so much to me, and I'm never going to let go of it. Even if I don't play the games anymore, even if I get bored of the series, I will never forget all the fun times I had, all the friends I made, and how it taught me how to not just be a better person, how to not just open up, but how to be a better person, and how to be my true self, and how to make friends. Which is something I can never say, which is something I thought I'd never say, especially when it came to a video game. But let's just end it off right there. So, this is going up on both Wormwood, and I like how everything's dark in my room. It was a little bit bright. Now everything's turned off because it's been, how long has it been? An hour and a half. Jeez, it's 11 o'clock. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy, I'm gonna say my outro. Why not like, comment, nobody ever favorites, and please subscribe to my YouTube shizzle. This has been Karma Police FES. And I'll see you guys later. Wormwood?
Pleasure doing business with you. See you all later. Have a good evening.